In this next part on stick floats, I want to talk about the ideal swims for learning to fish a stick float. This time of year the rivers are up and down like a yo-yo. The leaves are falling fast, so there's lots of debris coming down. The weeds that was in the river has died off a few months ago, and that's breaking up. So a lot of rubbish coming down the river, and the rivers are getting a good scour out with these floods. When they do settle, we'll get some steady water. The fish hopefully will be feeding again after all the rubbish is gone, and there should be some good opportunities to get out on the riverbank and fish a stick float. If you're learning to fish a stick float, what you don't want for a start is a strong wind, especially one that's blowing straight down the river or blowing into the bank or in your face. A very gentle upstream wind is good, but a strong one is not so good. This is a bit of footage that we filmed a couple of weeks ago on the Dorset Stour. We didn't show this in the particular video we made, but you can see here a very strong upstream wind, and the surface is standing still or even moving against the current. Underneath there's quite a good tow pulling through, and there were a few fish about. I wasn't fishing a stick float as such, just a little wire stem avon, and that pulled through against the current most of the time. The other thing you want is a current that is fairly steady on the inside and gradually getting faster as you go further out. And if the depth is fairly even, you can adjust the line, the distance you fish from the bank, and alter the way you fish a little bit. So as it gets faster, you might need to hold it back a bit more. And because the current's slower closer to the bank, that current will help slow down the line. You don't need to keep the line absolutely tight to the float all the time. You can lay some line on the water, and the current's doing a job for you in that sort of swim. If it's the other way around, where it's really fast under your feet and then gets slower as it goes further out, you get that sometimes if you're fishing on the outside of a bend and the current's coming across the river to hit the bank near you, you might find you've got to keep the line off the water all the time. So that sort of swim might not be the best to start with. Downstream wind is one of the worst to fish in. I've showed it earlier in the series. I'll show you some more pictures of this. The wind's trying to pick up the line all the time, trying to push the float into the bank, and the top is skimming through, and it can be quite difficult to control a fairly light float like a stick. Sometimes the waggler's better there, or even a big croquet avon with enough weight to boss the swim around. With fishing a stick float, same as any other method, you're not going to become an instant expert. There are people who are naturally gifted with float fishing. They can pick up things incredibly quickly, but most people it's a long learning curve. Do it for a few years and you might get good. And all the time, there's an old rule about 10,000 hours of doing something to become an expert. That's an awful lot of fishing a stick float, but that also means that you've got to improve in that time. You've got to look to become better at doing something. One of the things that I've found myself is where I'm videoing sessions, I'm seeing things that I'm doing wrong myself. I'm picking up on little flaws, the way I might set up a bait table, casting, little tiny bad habits, a bit like driving bad habits that you pick up over the years. And actually seeing myself fish, I'm sort of trying to eradicate those mistakes, but it certainly helps. And it also helps if you fish with someone else who's an equally good angler. Often you can practice together. One of the things with practicing it can help is to have a go with each other's gear. So you see how your mate fishes, and you might find that they set up a rig slightly differently. It fishes different to how you think. You might even struggle with their rig and not with your rig, but it's all part of that learning curve. So get out there, do some fishing, try it, maybe video, get someone to video what you're doing, See if you can pick up whether your float's actually going in a straight line down the swim or just gradually slewing in towards the bank. Roach in particular like a bait that comes with the current, not slewing across it. This is one of the problems with people fishing with centre pins. They think that they're achieving perfect presentation and it looks like it's going at the right speed, but it's going at an angle across the swim, and you don't want that. You need to try and avoid that. That's why that perfect wind of slightly off your back, slightly upstream tends to help to push the float out and hold it into that current. But on that note, I'm going to leave you to it, and hope you catch plenty of fish.